one who does not attain shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna must certainly wander up and down within the cycle of birth and death. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama. So this is a verse which is spoken by one king, Nimi, and it's very interesting. This king was cursed to die untimely, and he accepted. Though he could have reversed that curse, he accepted to die. But the sages who were performing a sacrifice on behalf of this king, those sages, they decided to preserve the body of this king Nimi. And at the end of performing the sacrifice, the sages requested the demigods who are also attending that sacrifice to revive this king, Nimi, in the same body, because they had preserved the body. So you may have so many questions how they can revive this body, how they can preserve the body, etc., etc. That's a different subject. I don't want to get into that. But the Devatas, because they were very pleased with Nimi's performance of sacrifice, they said to the sages, it is possible. And they agreed to revive this body of King Nimi. But this Maharaj Nimi, who was waiting to get the next body, he intervened and he is telling, I do not wish to accept a material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, lamentation and fear everywhere in the universe. It is described earlier that Maharaj Nimi, he was a self-realized soul. So self-realized soul knows this. No matter what type of body one may have, wherever in the material world one may take a birth, all material bodies are subject to death. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. Krishna is describing to Arjuna what is knowledge. A very interesting question Arjuna asked in the beginning of the 13th chapter. What is knowledge? Now, in asking that question, we have to understand that there are several branches of knowledge. And in general, if we say knowledge of which particular topic or which particular aspect of knowledge, it's so vast. So we may understand this question of Arjuna, what is knowledge, by the answer Krishna is giving in response to that question. Krishna describes 20 items of knowledge. And these 20 items of knowledge are very, very, very important for us to understand what is knowledge. So one of the items of knowledge that Krishna describes in these 20 items is Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. To know and to understand and realize that the defect and the misery of accepting material body is that there are 4 fundamental problems. Janma, taking birth, mrityu, death, jara, old age, vyadhi, disease. These 4 defects or problems always exist for all kinds of material bodies all over the universe. Now, Maharaj Nimi is pointing out one defect, one problem. He is telling here, Sarvatra asya yato mrityuhu. Everywhere in the universe, there is always death for any kind of material body. Therefore, Nimi is telling, I don't want to again enter another material body. I want a spiritual body. So, the lesson for us is that even we can prepare ourselves to change our body from this material body, which anyway we have to give up at the time of death, which we cannot avoid. We should change from a material body, from this material body, to a spiritual body. And the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is describing that such a spiritual body is possible only for those who prepare themselves to go to Krishna Loka, Krishna's personal abode. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. Though it is true that after we quit this body, we'll get another material body. He'll get another body. But Krishna says, don't accept another material body. Why? Because he says these 4 defects and 4 problems are there with all material bodies. When Hiranyakashipu was performing tapasya to please Lord Brahma, so then Brahma asked him, what benediction do you want for your doing this severe tapasya? So Hiranyakashipu said, I want to remain immortal in this body, in my present body. So Brahma said, even I cannot live in my present body forever. Even I am not immortal in my body. So how can I grant you immortality? So then Hiranyakashipu thought, I had done so much tapasya. It's all a waste. So he thought he is very smart. He said, okay, grant me benediction that I will not be killed by human beings, I will not be killed by animals, I will not be killed by devatas, I will not be killed in the day, I will not be killed in the night, I will not be killed inside my palace, I will not be killed outside my palace, I will not die in air, I will not die in water, I will not die on the land. Like that he conjured up so many different conditions under which he will not die. Brahma said, okay, I grant you this benedictions. So then Hiranyakashipu thought he had become immortal. But the foolish Hiranyakashipu did not know that the material body, by the laws of material nature, is destined to die. So there is something called destruction, pralaya. When pralaya happens, Brahma also has to quit his body. Brahma also has to die. Everyone has to die. All those who have a material body have to die. So this realization is very, very important. Of course, many people will say, so what if I die? They think that death means everything is finished. No. At the time of death, you don't die. Your body is finished. But you as spirit soul, you are eternal. So you have to leave this body and you have to enter another body. So leaving the body is not very pleasant. The scriptures describe what is the experience of a person who dies without Krishna consciousness. The experience is like several millions of scorpions were to bite a person simultaneously. The pain such a person would experience is something like the pain of death. If one ant bites, our attention is completely disturbed. Scorpion's bite is much, much, much more painful than the bite of an ant. And not just one scorpion, millions of scorpions were to bite somebody. We don't have such experience in this material world. Never. So only at the time of death, if we are not prepared to quit the body, then we certainly will have to experience this extreme pain, dukkha. And it is certainly dosha, it is a defect, because nobody wants to die. Who wants to die? So therefore, the desire not to die is because our actual nature is that we are eternal. We are not meant to die. As spirit soul, we are eternal beings. But the problem is, that we have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten what is our real nature. After forgetting Krishna, forget even ourselves. And then we accept this body as our real self. And we lead a life thinking that as long as I live, let me enjoy. But this is a big defect, because material life is such that, as is described here by Srila Prabhupada, that there is no freedom from miseries in material existence. These four miseries which are described by Krishna as the fundamental miseries, birth, death, disease and old age, these are not the only miseries that people face. You can add to this list many other types of miseries different people undergo at different times. And as Kali Yuga is advancing, there are so many more miseries which are added unnecessarily. Unnecessary miseries are always added. So much of anxiety. Life is filled with anxiety in this Kali Yuga. There are so many reasons. So, life in this material world is actually filled with miseries. That is also explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Krishna is contrasting life in this material world with life in his personal abode. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti. If you come to my abode, don't think it's like this material world. What are the characteristics of the material world? Dukkhalayam. Alayam means filled with dukkha. It's like Himalaya. Filled with hima, filled with snow. Like that, how much snow is there in Himalayas? Can anybody estimate the quantity of snow? Not possible. So similarly, how much dukkha is there in this material world, nobody can actually figure out. Krishna just says, dukkhalayam, filled with miseries. The influence of the illusory energy is such that when we are faced with a misery, we become very much occupied with getting relief from that particular misery. And as soon as we get relief, for us it is a celebration. So what we call as happiness is not real happiness. It is actually relief from an existing misery. This is what is happiness in the material world. But somebody may say, apart from the happiness one may feel when one gets relief from misery, there are times when I don't have any misery. And at such times, I enjoy reading a nice book, eating some nice food, talking to some nice friend. So what about those moments of happiness? Now that is also another effect of illusion, that I don't have any misery, because the fear of death is always in the background of everyone's mind. Always this fear of death is there. It's like we have experienced when we are flying in an aeroplane. Sometimes this aeroplane will hit an air pocket, and then the plane starts shaking. And the captain, the pilot, the chief pilot, he will give a warning that there is an air pocket coming, there will be some turbulence, kindly put on your seat belts, and you have to bear with it for a little time. And then after we pass through that air pocket, plane will become steady. So we are prepared even for that. But sometimes the turbulence is not little, it is more. And the turbulence could be so much that the captain is unable to keep the plane in this position. The plane starts turning, and then it becomes like upside down. Then suddenly people start shaking and they have this, obviously. Then some people who are not very alert or attentive to hear the captain's announcement, in the middle of something they are eating, talking, thinking something planning, suddenly some announcement comes, they don't know what that announcement is. Many times people don't even take note of that announcement. And then suddenly this happens, what's happening? Then they think something has happened, something has gone wrong with the plane itself. Then we start hearing people screaming naturally. Fear of death. And to compound to the problem, sometimes the overhead bins, that flimsy flap they have, it opens up. And then these huge bags start falling. And then we have this, I have never experienced this, though I traveled several times by flight. But one of my friends who happened to travel transcontinental from India to America, transatlantic flight, he experienced this. He was the only one, probably, who was chanting Hare Krishna amidst all this commotion, because he is a devotee. But he saw and he experienced everybody is either screaming or shouting or crying out. Some are trying to secure their luggage. It's all this. So, the fear of death is always there. Fear of death is always there. See, Corona time, how we experienced the fear of death. We keep hearing news. Number of cases are increasing. And if in our neighborhood or locality somebody dies, and we come to know firsthand, we become even more afraid. Oh, it is spreading, I have to be more careful. Or somebody in the family gets little fever. Oh, we have to immediately do something. Bring down the fever. The fever could increase and it could be death. So it's a fact that everybody is having that fear of death, though it's in the background, not always in the foreground, the background. Because the influence of illusory energy is such that we tend to forget things which are unpleasant, which are the harsh realities of life. Just like sometimes people, they consume this intoxicant not really because they are so much desirous of enjoying drinking. No. Sometimes it is just to forget their immediate worries. Especially this labor class people. They are filled with so many problems. So night they cannot get sleep. And I heard this firsthand from one laborer. So he says, only way I can get sleep is if I drink some intoxicant and then I forget all my worries. And then I go to sleep. And this is not true just for laborers. I heard from one big general manager in America, in one big company. He also confided in me that I drink only because I have to forget these anxieties and tensions in the company, in the workplace. My job is filled with so much anxiety. So therefore, the fact is that everybody tends to forget the realities of life. We know death is going to come. We don't know exactly when. We hope that at least we live some 80 or 100 years. So when we are young, we think, oh, I'm not going to die. I'm going to die. But who knows when, who is going to die? Nobody knows. So therefore, the fear of death is a fact. And Bhagavatam warns us, even Brahma is afraid of death. What to speak of other people? What is Brahma's lifespan? For 311 trillion years, according to our calculation. This is Brahma's lifespan. And Brahma certainly is not going to die untimely. And Brahma's post, among all the created beings, Brahma is the only person whose post is permanent till the end of this entire creation. Brahma is called Chira Lokapala. Lokapala means these governors of the universe who hold different posts. There are only three Chira Lokapalas: Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Vishnu and Shiva are not living beings. They are not created beings. Brahma is the only created being like us. All of us are created beings. Brahma is also a created being. But Brahma, he doesn't die untimely. Neither his position is only for a limited duration. All others, maximum, they may hold on to their post for a manvantara. Or some of them, even beyond a manvantara, for one day of Brahma, they'll be holding on to their post. But everybody else other than Brahma, they have to relinquish their post. So that will also be a source of fear for them, a cause for anxiety. I'm going to lose my position. What will happen in future? So like this, everybody has the fear of death, including Brahma. So Brahma, even though he doesn't have the fear of losing his post, even though he doesn't have untimely death, even he is afraid of death. So who else will not be afraid of death? So everyone is having the fear of death. We have to accept this from the Bhagavatam. So because of this fear of death, actually we are always in anxiety in this material world. Sada samudvigna dhyam sadgraha. But there is a way out of this anxiety, to come out of this anxiety by becoming Krishna conscious. You chant Hare Krishna, you practice devotional service, you become free from all anxieties. How is it that you become free from anxiety or fear of death, which Brahma even has got? It's because you know that when you become Krishna conscious, you're going to change this body at the time of death to a spiritual body. And spiritual body, there is no death, there is no disease, there is no old age. You are going to Krishna Loka. You're not going to remain in this material world. So this assurance Krishna is giving in the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji ma namaskuru mame vaishyasi. If you become Krishna's devotee, you will not take birth again in this material world. You will go to Krishna Loka. Go to Krishna Loka. Krishna assures that. Mame vaishyasi ashamshayaha. Have no trace of any doubt. No doubt at all. Doubtlessly, you will definitely go to Krishna. Krishna gives this assurance. So therefore, the way out of this anxiety, the way out of fear, is actually to become a devotee. Therefore, we request, please take up devotional service seriously, chant Hare Krishna, and become fixed up. And even before death comes, you can experience freedom from all material anxieties. It's not just that the fear of death is the only fear that we have. Even before death comes, we have so many other anxieties, causes for anxiety. But if you become a devotee, you learn to take shelter of Krishna. You learn to think of Krishna, and you become fearless in this material existence. So that is our request to everyone. Please take up this Krishna consciousness very seriously and become a devotee. Become fearless. Become free from all anxiety. And experience the true joy of Krishna consciousness, which is real happiness. I'll stop here. I have a few announcements to make. Today we'll be having Krishna Janmashtami volunteers meeting and registration at Sridham Hall from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. So request all the devotees to assemble at Sridham Hall at 9:30 a.m. And we'll be having Japa Yajna today from 10 a.m. to 12 noon after the volunteers meeting. So devotees get an opportunity to chant 16 rounds with the temple devotees. And also there will be some tips given how to improve the quality of chanting. That is a special feature of this Japa Yajna session. So you please attend. Even if you can't attend all 2 hours, as much as you can, please do participate and get these tips, important tips for improving the quality of the chanting. We'll be celebrating Balaram Jayanti on 12th of this month, Friday. So 6 p.m. onwards, celebration will be there. We'll have Abhishekam for Sri Krishna Balaram and followed by Sankirtan, Arati and Prasad. We're celebrating Krishna Janmashtami. We'll be observing a 2-day festival, 18th and 19th of August. Thursday and Friday, grand celebration. It's the biggest festival for us, devotees of Krishna. Krishna Janmashtami is the biggest festival. So we'll be having elaborate arrangements for celebrating this festival. The past 2 years, because of this corona pandemic, our celebrations were all very much toned down. So now we are going to come back to the pre-corona time standard of celebration. That's the good news for all of you. So there will be Abhishekam for Krishna Balaram on 18th and 19th, followed by many other special sevas. We'll be fasting. For Balaram Purnima, we'll be fasting till noon, and Janmashtami will be fasting till midnight. So we have a lot of more details about Janmashtami, which I'm not reading here. We'll put on the notice board. On 20th, we are celebrating Vyas Puja. We are celebrating the appearance day anniversary of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, his birthday, 126th birthday. And it is called Vyas Puja because it's a representative Vyasadeva for all of us. So there will be special Abhishek to the deity of Srila Prabhupada at 6 p.m. followed by Vyas Puja offering in the form of a book. And there will also be Guru Puja and dinner prasadam feast. We'll also be having a special event called Vyas Puja Smaran. That is, on the day of Vyas Puja, many devotees who have written offerings, they don't get time to read all those offerings. With the paucity of time, we have a separate day reserved, the 28th of August, the next Sunday, after this Vyas Puja celebration, the next Sunday, 28th of August Sunday, from 10 to 12:30, we'll be having devotees reading their Vyas Puja offerings, offering their homage to Srila Prabhupada. So, this Vyas Puja Smaran event will happen on 28th of August, Sunday, 10 to 12:30. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.